Hello, Roger. You are up next, sir.
Hello there. I got
Hello.
to tell you a quick anecdote. You called me an older gentleman, which I am. But
Sorry, sorry.
when I first started listening to you a couple of years ago, you and
Yes.
the callers were talking about OMCs, and I had no idea what that was.
Okay.
Then finally, somebody said "Old Man Coffee,"
Old
and
man coffee. Yeah.
I said, "Oh crap, they're talking about me." And so that's what I decided. That's what I decided. I really had to study
You're
this
not.
game.
I mean, I can see you. Like, I always, when I send out these emails, I say it's just audio. You don't have to be on video. But obviously, we connect through Google Meet, so some people are on video. I had to crack up because I saw you laughing in the background. The first hand when the guy was like, "I'm going to check raise fold 7-4." So, anyways, all right, you got a hand for us, Roger.
Yeah, so this is 2-5 at Coconut Creek here in Florida.
Okay.
It's eight-handed. I'm the effective stack, $470.
Okay, so this is a 300 to 1,000 game. Is that correct at Coconut Creek in Florida, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. And you're at $470. Okay. So what are you usually buying for in this game?
I usually buy in for 500.
Okay.
Usually I'll keep a black chip in my pocket, if I get
Add some
low.
on. Yeah.
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 Yes.
Okay. Yep.
All right, so I'm under the gun and I look down at Jack of Hearts, Jack of Clubs.
So Jack of Hearts, Jack of Clubs. Okay.
So I open for 25. Usual open is 20, but I have a vulnerable hand and early position, so I open for 25.
Okay.
Under the gun +1 calls,
Okay.
button calls,
Okay.
and big blind calls.
And the big blind calls. Do you usually get this type of action pre-flop?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. People splash around. Yeah, people
Yeah.
they'll play any two cards half the time.
Okay, well, I mean, it's not a bad spot to be in here as the pot is about 100, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
All right, so the flop comes Jack of Spades,
Mm-hmm.
two of clubs, four of diamonds.
So you flop top set.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. And the big blind checks.
Okay.
So I looked at this board for just a half a second and I thought, I checked. Now, do you want me to defend my check here?
Well, so let me just, you can chime in after I'll give you my take. I mean, obviously, I can give you the sort of token CLP thing where it's the live game. I'm never usually like a big fan of slow playing. However,
Right.
sometimes people actually have to adjust to their image. So if you feel like your image is somewhat nitty and you don't get a whole lot of action sometimes on your good hands, I can absolutely see a case for a guy like you to check because you're blocking all of the hands, most of the hands that people can call with, right? So
Right.
when if you're a sort of a nitty OMC type, and I'm not saying you are, Roger, but we can take a step back and look at it, and you come out and blast away when you have it, and you check when you miss. You're supposed to mix that up sometimes so that people know that when you check, you don't necessarily always not have anything, right? Now,
Right.
I would rather be betting over pairs here. So, yeah, I mean, if I was going to check a hand, I think probably Jack Jack would be a decent one to do it. I mean, if you somehow had raised, maybe you don't raise 4-4 under the gun, but say it was like, you raised 7-7 and it came out Jack 7 deuce. I would do more betting there, right? Because you get with pocket
Right.
sevens, because you get more opportunity to call it by a Jack. So, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm thinking, nobody's got two pair.
Sure.
Nobody's got a jack in their hand. If I bet now,
Right.
all right, so I win $100 pot. If I check and somebody bets, if one or two people call, I can check raise. If nobody else calls, somebody bets, I'll just smooth call.
I mean, the thing that I would say though too, I'll give you also the answer I say is it can never be wrong when you have this inclination where you want to slow play to just bet small instead. So instead of
Yeah.
checking, go like bet 30 or 25 or something like that. And the whole thing about slow playing is that you want somebody to catch up to a hand that can pay you off that might otherwise fold. So you kind of get the opportunity. I mean, I kind of like checking maybe a little bit more on a lower board, like 8 deuce 3 with pocket eights, just because then now there's so many more overcards that can come, but you still have 3 overcards that somebody could catch. But okay, so you check.
And then under the gun +1 checks and button checks.
Okay, so it gets checked through.
So
Which is it always seems to do that when you try to do one of these things, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
All right, so the turn card's the 3 of diamonds.
Okay, so now, because I was going to say is now you're going to get into a situation here on the turn where, especially when you have guys possibly in the blind that might lead out, where there could be some straights. I mean, you wanted to see a queen, a king, probably an ace to a lesser extent, a king, a queen, and some card above like a 7, an 8, or a 9, or a 10 is really what you wanted to see, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the big blind donk bets for $50.
So 50 into 100.
Right.
So this is kind of interesting here with your stack size, I have to say. So now there's a situation here where you have a backdoor diamond draw that comes out. So you get a backdoor diamond draw that comes out, and then you also have these straight draws and things like that. Now you have most of the jacks, as we talked about. And here's the thing, like if I was deeper, I can probably easily just sort of get on board with a call here. I do wonder though that if you're shallow enough where you sort of like, well, if someone like turned ace-5 or 5-6, so be it. I did it to myself, but I still want to get value. So it's kind of in between, because if you call here, the pot will be 200 and you'll have like 400 left because you only have 2 pot size bets left, right? Plus you've got other situations where you have other hands that might go with like someone else has a set or something like that. So, but although it is kind of weird where all of a sudden you check the flop and then you wake up with a raise on the turn, I can still get on board here with a call. You just got to be very, very cognizant of the river scare cards, right? Of an ace, a 6, or backdoor diamonds,
Right. And don't forget, I've got 2 people behind me.
Sure.
Who end up calling. They both call.
Yeah. So they both call.
Right.
So hero calls and the button calls. Is that right? Yeah. So
under the gun +1 calls.
Yeah. Okay. So +1 calls and the button calls.
Right. So now there's $300 in the pot.
All right. So 300 here in the pot. So you definitely need to dodge some cards here. Yep.
Right. And the river's a 9 of diamonds.
That is not a good card, if I'm reading this correctly. So backdoor diamonds get there. And again, for the podcast people, hero decided to slow play Jack, deuce 4. Turn was a 3 of diamonds. Big blind bet out into 3 people, including the hero who raised under the gun. 50. Hero calls, +1 calls, and the button calls. So 300. Now the river's the 9 of diamonds. Jeez. Okay. Backdoor diamonds come in.
Right. And the big blind comes out and bets $196 into the pot.
Is that all in?
No.
Oh, you get to bet single dollars in this game?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it's 2-5.
Yeah, it's 2-5, so you have dollar chips.
Yeah, where I'm from, you have to bet the increment of the big blind, but so he bets $196. Interesting. Wow,
So,
Roger, this is crazy.
Yeah, so I definitely go into the tank here, and I'm thinking, well, he could have ace-5, certainly.
I don't think he has ace-5 here, though. I mean, I think here's the thing. Like, I think he has he's representing a flush. I don't think it matters, because the reason why I don't think he has a straight, because take it from, let's say he turned a straight, Roger. He had 5-6 or ace-5, and then it goes call, right? Call. Do you think he's going to bet 196 here, 2/3 with a straight when the diamond comes after the backdoor shows up?
Well, I'll tell you after the reveal.
Okay. But you, sir, are in a terrible position because you have to worry about the people behind you.
Exactly. I thought about it for a while.
Oh, my God.
I've got 2 people behind me.
Yeah.
Either one could have a straight or a flush, and I end up folding.
I tell you, I can get on board with it. I can get on board with it, and I think it comes back to how much strength that lead into 3 people are. I would be very, very surprised if this guy doesn't have a flush, but then you also have to worry about the people behind you, though, too. Right. I mean, this is a little bit different when somebody, I kind of roll my eyes and people are like, oh, I folded top set at like 1-2 or 1-3. This one's a little bit different, though. I can sort of get on board with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then the under the gun +1 folds, and the button thinks about it for maybe 30 seconds, and he says, I'm going to call you. I got to call you.
Mm-hmm.
And the button turns over 8-10 of diamonds for a flush.
Okay.
The big blind turns over 5-6 offsuit for the straight.
Well, I guess that answers my question.
Well, but then he says, listen to this. He says, when I play online, I have to have different colors for the cards. He said, I thought I had the nuts. I didn't see the flush out there.
That makes a lot of sense. So I think that is empirical evidence. So he did not see the backdoor diamond coming.
Correct.
That is why he bet. That makes a whole lot more sense. There you go. He uses a 4-color deck. They've tried to bring 4-color decks in live occasionally, but for whatever reason, people don't like them. But definitely makes sense, because I would have been shocked if he had 5-6 off, in the sense where like he was actually betting that. But that's a nice fold. I mean, hey, where you go wrong sometimes slow playing, Roger, is, and this used to be way back in the day, and I would see this stuff all the time. This goes way back in the Live of the Bike days, where people would slow play, but then no matter what came out, they would stack off. I used to call this the negative equity slow play. That's another one for the CLP appendix that I'm writing up. It's not super applicable. The negative equity slow play was one of the first terms that I came up with, and I think it was back in the Live of the Bike days, where somebody would flop trips as the pre-flop raiser. Not necessarily like a set. I'm talking about trips. Like, oh, they raised with like ace jack, and the board came out jack, jack 4, right? And they thought they were so smart that they were going to slow play, that no matter what happened, they were going to stack off. And what ended up happening was, occasionally, you would give somebody a free card at a 2-outer with a pocket pair of their hand that would give you no action unless a miracle turn came, and you were then beat with ace jack, and they would just give away their entire stack by slow playing. So if you're going to slow play, you have to at least be aware that you might have to get away from the hand later on. So I would give you props to that.
I've listened to you long enough now where really I very rarely slow play. I know your philosophy is, with your good hands, lead out on the flop. So this was just such an unusual flop. I just couldn't imagine a card that could hurt me,
Yeah.
I think the other thing this shows is, for the listeners, it's very difficult to play even a premium hand out of position.
Well, multi-way.
Yeah.
I'll give you that caveat. Absolutely, multi-way. This is why, like, when, it's really, really hard to do these sort of computer sims multi-way, because it breaks all the GTO pre-flop ranges to be able to have those situations. But this is why a lot of times in a GTO type of scenario where the ranges are actually as tight as they're supposed to be, you will see a lot of situations where the UTG checks the flop, especially if it's UTG versus UTG1. And then if it's multi-way, they're checking a lot, because the board just, anytime they get a board where it favors the field callers, they check. But I think what you're saying, though, is kind of demonstrates that you don't really have the betting lead. And I think sometimes, too, it hampers you in terms of value when you're not the pre-flop raiser playing from out of position. Like when that first caller with the 7-4, I didn't really like his line because I was so concerned if I was him that the dude was going to check back. He had a boat. So I think that's what it demonstrates. But thank you very much for the call. Appreciate it.